We are talking about how to pay off mortgage early, and and sorry, still having a few issues here, but it's okay. You need to close that out and go to the other one. All right. So we do not have our mortgage paid off yet.
What?
But what we're going to do is share the tips of how we are paying off our mortgage currently, which we hope to have paid off, I don't know, June? You think we can do it by June?
We were hoping. We'll see.
We're hoping. We have some legal things going on that we may need to use that money for instead. So we may have a delay, but this is how we are doing it. Okay, so one of my goals when I wrote Dining on a Dime 20 years ago was to help us pay off our mortgage. That was one of my goals, is to get us so that we could be completely debt-free. If it wasn't for my mom being totally debt-free, we would have never survived her living on $500 a month. It would have just been a disaster. We might have had to go live with family or something like that, which wouldn't have been the best for us. And so I am a big proponent of getting your mortgage paid off, no matter what. Get it paid off. And so we are going to take your questions at the end. We're going to explain some things, and we're going to get the basics down, and then we'll be answering your questions, okay? All right, so first of all, let's go through a couple of definitions real quick. So, what is the principal?
Oh, okay. So on a mortgage, the principal is the amount that you actually owe.
So we took out a $140,000 loan on this house. That is the principal for us, right?
Yep. And the principal balance is how much is left.
Okay. How much? What is interest?
Okay, so interest is the amount of money you have to pay in order to borrow the money. And each month they recalculate the interest based on the balance that you currently have.
Yep.
So the more you paid off, the less interest is still.
What is escrow?
So escrow is an account you have because you have to pay taxes and insurance, hazard insurance, so if the house burns down or something. And when you have a mortgage, you are required to have what's called an escrow account, where a third party is in charge of receiving those bills and paying them on your behalf, because the mortgage company wants to make sure that you don't forget to pay or decide to stop paying.
So if your house burns down, the loan will still be paid.
Right. So every time you pay a mortgage payment, a portion of that goes to the principal, and a portion goes to escrow, and a portion goes to interest.
Yep. Okay, and then the last thing is, what is amortization?
So amortization is how they break out the total of all those costs for the, let's say it's a 30-year loan, so over the entire loan period, so for the whole 30 years.
Yeah.
So an amortization schedule, we'll show you that later, has indicating every single month for the whole 30 years, if you pay it on a 30-year schedule, just the way they prescribe it, how much you pay each month total, and how much of that is principal, and how much is interest, and how much is escrow.
Yeah. Okay, so.
Well, actually, it doesn't show the escrow, I guess.
Yeah. All right. So I have to say, I am amazed at how few people take seriously paying off their home and being completely debt-free. It really shocks me. I know people who have told me, and they're like, yeah, well, I'm just going to have a house payment until I'm dead.
Well,
I just can't imagine that. Honestly, I just really can't imagine doing that. So anyway, are you doing a mortgage definition?
There's a translation, I think if you translate it from, I forgot it's Latin or Greek root or something, it means like agreement until death.
Well, there you go.
Well, I think that's
Okay.
called the mortgage.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and show you, Dave, if you want to bring up number 1 here.
Okay.
We're going to show you our loan information, okay? And we're going to explain what some of these things are, okay? So on here, if Dave, is this what's up?
Yep.
Graphic 1.
Okay. All right. So on here, you will see the borrower and co-borrower, Mike and I. You will see the loan type is conventional without PMI. PMI is it private mortgage insurance?
Private mortgage
Okay.
insurance.
If you do not put 20% down on your house, you have to have that. And that can be a good chunk of change, like $100 a month.
And what it is it's you have to pay for insurance for the mortgage company because you're a risky person, and if you pay less than that, and that way if you default on the loan, they're covered for the portion that you would otherwise have had to put down.
Yeah. And so that is what the PMI is. We got a conventional loan, just a regular loan. Our loan interest is 4.8%. You can see there. Our original loan amount is $141,000. We have $42,000 left, and we've lived in this home. This will be our 8th year that we've been here.
Yeah, you can see the principal balance there. That is showing the remaining part that's left.
Okay, so the next thing is, okay, Dave, number 2?
Yep.
Okay.
So the reason why we showed this is to show you kind of a breakdown. Let's see, what were we trying to show?
Yeah, interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
If you look at the section down where it says payment comprised of the following amounts, that's what we wanted you to see. So the payment actually fluctuates a little bit because the escrow account fluctuates. But
Because taxes and insurance can go up and down.
yeah, the other stuff shouldn't change if you get a, what do you call it? The loan that has a rate that doesn't, a fixed rate loan.
Yeah.
But if you look at this, principal and interest is the amount of the principal we pay plus the interest. And if you look up at the top, it shows how much interest we've paid up to now, which is a lot less because our mortgage is very low now. But you can see down below, principal and interest, that's part of the payment. County tax is part of the payment. Hazard escrow is part of the payment, and other taxes. All those numbers together add up to the total amount of the payment.
So even when you pay off your house, you're still going to always have the taxes and the escrow, which is your insurance and taxes. So you're always going to have to pay something on your house. You know, death and taxes. That's all you can count on. And so it's true with your house. You're going to have to pay house. You're going to have to pay house insurance, and you're going to have to pay taxes.
What you're trying to get rid of is that principal and interest number. And here in Colorado, our number is only that low because we've paid off most of it in our house. There's very little of the house mortgaged. If we had a full mortgage on the house and we were paying minimum payments, it'd be like $3,000 a month.
Yeah. Okay, so why do you want to pay off your house before saving for retirement? So we do not have a retirement savings yet. We are focusing on getting our house paid off. Why? Because you do not want to go into retirement with any debt at all, zip, zero, zilch for debt. Huh?
Do you want them on the us or on the graphic?
On us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, okay, sorry.
So that is why, because if you have no debt, you have less that you will need to save up to live on. Okay? It's just common sense. All right? Now, so what are we doing? We are trying this year to get our house paid off. Then all that money that we will save from our house payment and the extra payments and paying off, we're going to start saving that for retirement or invest it in other things, another home, real estate, something like that, okay? But you really don't want to have any debt when you retire at all, okay?
One thing, somebody says county tax is really high. I think, let me see that number again. That number that it's showing...
actually, that's really good.
That is a good tax number for where we are in Colorado, though. That's about double because we have a special road district here, which we really didn't want. So if we lived in a different neighborhood, our tax for the same house would be half of that.
So we pay $277 for taxes every month. If we lived in another area, it would be about $150 a month. Colorado and Wyoming are two of the least expensive places to live for taxes.
For property tax.
For property taxes. And that's one of the problems we're having looking for houses. Even in Kansas, when I looked at that other house I showed you guys on Monday, we would still have to pay about $800 a month in taxes and insurance for Kansas. So that's one of the things that we are keeping in mind is how much are the taxes going to be, because our goal is to pay off our house.
Well, and we looked at a house in Wisconsin out in the country, and wasn't it like $600 or $700 a month?
Oh,
just the tax.
Yeah. No, well, there was several places that were $1,000 a month. Wisconsin is one of the highest taxes in the country.
So, but
yeah, it really is. And that's one of the things that has kept us from moving to Wisconsin and Michigan and those areas, is because the taxes are so ridiculous that,
And property tax is different in each district. So, like, if you're in a city or a town or a different county, it might change in that state. So, like, our county is one of the lowest in the state of Colorado. Yeah. Although Colorado is generally low almost everywhere. So.
Okay, so, next. So, how do you pay off your taxes? Let's see. What do you got this one for?
This was just to show generally what a mortgage statement looks like. So, Dave, can you put up 3 for a second?
Yep.
This is just generally, if you don't have a mortgage statement, this is what it looks like. And the reason we're showing this is because you can see the basic account information is at the top. The explanation of the payments is on the right there. And then down below, there's a thing that says transaction activity. That shows what they've actually done, what's happened in the last month. And I think we have another graphic that I'll show that in a second.
There's one about the statement general.
Pardon me? Oh, yeah. That's this one, right? Okay, and then the bottom is the payment coupon. And we're going to show some close-ups of those things so you can understand.
Okay, so
we've kind of already gone over what's on 4 here. This is the same information on a different format. So do you want to skip past that?
Okay.
So if we go to 5, Dave, the section that says transaction activity, this shows what happens each month. And this is just showing the last few items. So this is showing that on February 11th, the escrow company, the company that's holding that money for our escrow account, has paid half of our taxes for the year. Because they pay 2 times a year, and it shows on this, on the next one above, the tax disbursement is extra principal. Well, the top one is payment. That's the amount of the principal and interest and escrow separated out for the payment. That's the payment we have to make no matter what. And then the one that says extra principal is an extra amount that I paid at the beginning of this month. And so when you pay, we're going to tell you about paying off extra principal, but when you do, you should look on this transaction activity and make sure that it actually posted as extra principal.
Double check, because they don't post it all the time.
The reason why is because extra principal is actually paying off your debt. Mm-hmm. But if you just make an extra payment, all that's paying interest and escrow ahead of time. But it's not actually paying down your debt any more than it would be for a normal payment.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go to the save your questions, guys, and we are going to get to them as soon as we're done. Okay. But we want to explain everything first, because we might explain some things first. Okay. So Dave, go to this page here.
Okay.
All right. So yeah.
So number 6 is.
Let me 6.
Yep.
So number 6, this is the actual payment coupon part. And the reason why we're showing this to you is because if you're going to pay off the house early, you need to make extra principal payments. And so this is normally, if you just see it says total amount due and total checking closed. If those are the same numbers, you're paying off according to the plan that they originally had for
your
you.
30-year plan.
We'll show you the 30-year plan a little bit later. But where it says extra principal, if you were going to pay extra to pay down the house, you would pay it on the extra principal line. And so let's say on this one it's $1,258.79. So let's say we pay an extra $1,000. We put $1,000 on extra principal, and then where it says total checking close, it'd be $2,258.79, and that's paying an extra $1,000, which actually makes a big difference.
Yep.
So.
And let's go back to extra escrow. Why would you want to pay extra escrow?
So extra escrow. And this has happened with us. When they first built our house, the tax was only based on the land, and the tax suddenly went up right away. And suddenly, at the end of that year, they sent us a thing saying, hey, you can pay $5,000 right now, or we're going to raise your payment $150 a month for the next 5 years. And so then you can choose if you want to pay extra escrow. In our case, we were thinking it's better to pay on the principal and to keep that payment at that level than to put all that money in escrow right now and keep paying interest on that extra principal.
Yeah. Yep. So
So-
that's why we choose. So that's how you need to use. That's how you use the payment. Now I want to say something. If you do not do the extra principal here, so our son got a car loan only because he's trying to build his credit, and he had the money, he had the cash saved up. It was a zero interest loan, but he thought on the extra principal, but he wasn't writing it in, and they were just putting it on his payments. Well, when he figured out that they weren't doing that, he called the loan company and said, that was supposed to be going on my principal, and he got it put on his principal. So if you pay it and you accidentally put it on the wrong spot, call them and tell them that was a principal payment. I made a mistake. Please credit that to my principal. It is not a prepayment for next month.
In our case, early in our mortgage with the mortgage company we were using at that time, I put it on the extra principal line and they put it on the extra payment line.
Yeah.
And I called them and the person argued with me on the other end saying, well, don't you want to have an extra payment? That way you don't have to make a payment for the next 3 months. Isn't that wonderful? And I was thinking, yeah, but then I still owe the same amount I owed before.
Yeah. So they're trying to trick
what
you.
they're trying to do is they were trying
Yeah.
to trick us on that one. And I
Yeah.
managed to get them to. But that's why every time I make the payment, I go back and I check to make sure that it says it's posted to principal.
Whoa, sorry, transition
So-
to the next one.
So,
Wrong one.
which one are you? Are
I
you
went
back
to
on us?
8.
So this I was going to use to show the difference, but I wonder if we want to skip to the calculator first.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go to 9, Dave.
Okay, escrow calculate.
So,
The amortization calculator.
so if you want, so
Dave,
we're gonna
wait,
show
that's-
you.
Is that 10? Yeah.
It's 9.
That's 10.
Okay. Well, it maybe got messed up, but this is it.
Oh, okay. It's the one that says amortization
Yeah.
schedule calculator.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I did is you would get when you get a loan, you get an amortization schedule at the beginning from the bank.
So that's a list of for 30 years, all your payments laid out.
But you can go anytime on the internet and look up a schedule calculator like this, and you can find out what the interest should be throughout the mortgage, throughout a loan. So
So it's called an amortization schedule calculator.
and the link to this one is in the description, but you can Google it, amortization schedule calculator. There'll be tons of them come up. So for this example, I just wanted to show you how kind of how much you can save if you pay extra stuff early. So in this one, I chose loan type as a mortgage. We just did a sample loan for $150,000 for 30 years
Next one.
at this interest rate. So then, go ahead and switch to 10, Dave. Let me know when it's switched.
No, the one you're just watching was 10.
It's okay.
Here's
Or
the next
11,
One. Here's
yeah.
the next one, yeah.
So this one you can see, this is what the schedule actually looks like. And you'll get this paperwork if you buy a house, and most people don't even look at this paperwork. But if you look, it says based on this schedule, the payment would be $828.31. Now, the reality is if you're going to buy a house, this doesn't include your escrow account.
This doesn't
So-
include your taxes and your insurance.
So you would need to keep that in mind if you're buying a house. But let's say you already have this house and the payment is $828.31. You look at this. Now we typed in a $150,000 loan, but look at if you paid a total of 360 payments, which is all of the loan that it requires. It's almost $300,000, which is double the amount that you borrowed, and it's double even at a low interest rate of it was 5.25%. And the reason it's double is because every month you're paying a percentage on the total balance that's left. And this is the key to why you can pay it off real fast if you start to pay a little bit extra each month as you go. Although the more extra you pay off, the faster it'll go. So this is showing us, if you look at it again, $828.31 is the payment that they're predicting, almost $300,000 if you pay it according to this schedule. And at that time, you would have paid almost $150,000 in interest, which is the fee that you're paying for the privilege of borrowing this money. And if you look down below, it says mortgage amortization schedule. You can see that it lists, okay, if we borrowed this money today, this is the March payment, this is the April payment, and the May payment, and it shows how it all breaks down and how it's cutting down the total balance. And you notice, if you look at that schedule, we pay $828. The balance starts at 149. Well, no, actually, it starts at 150. You pay off $828, and now it's 149,828, which means
So,
less
go
than
to this one,
$200 got paid off.
Okay, so here's the thing. When you
we're
get,
backtracking now?
yeah, sorry.
Okay.
When you get a mortgage, okay, can you guys see on here,
Here you go.
Is this the one that says 2014?
at the beginning, the principal, so this is the amount you borrowed. The principal is only being paid at $198. Interest is $552. This is why it is so important to get your as much money as you can thrown on your mortgage at the beginning of your loan versus at the end. At the end, you're paying mostly on the principal, but that the interest is all being paid at the beginning of your loan.
And part of the reason, well, yeah, they front load it so that you pay all the interest ahead of time, and then if in the 30 years, by the time you get to the end, you're only paying off the portion that you actually owed. So if you look on this picture on the very left, the highest number up, the 135,965, at that time, that was how much we still owed on this loan in 2014, and that was after we had the house for 2.5 years. And so you can, and at that time we were just making the regular payments and maybe $100 extra every now and then. And that's why the interest was so large. On the other one, I don't remember which page it was. The other one that's now, the principal that is much higher and the interest is much lower because we've paid off so much of the debt. There's not very much interest left. So if this one on 2014, this is where I've said before for those people who were confused. I was saying, I figured out if you pay off an extra payment, it's like paying off multiple payments all at once. Because is this graphic back on or no? Or did you go?
No, I turned it off.
Because this, should we show it again for this part?
Okay.
Go ahead and put it back on, Dave.
Okay.
So if you look at this, it says principal $198.72. Let's just say $200, and the total regular payment is just over $900. So basically, if you make an extra payment, that's all to principal. You're paying $900 to principal, but on a normal payment, you're only paying $200 to principal. So if you make one extra payment on this is an actual mortgage statement from us. So if you make one extra payment, it's paying off 3.5 times as much principal as just making your normal payment. So I realized this is like taking 3.5 payments off of our total mortgage. And at that point, I realized this is why it's good to pay as much extra as you can early in the mortgage process.
Yeah.
So, and honestly, that's not very much money that we're paying on. Even if you pay $200 extra, you're paying the same amount as the principal. And so that's essentially taking off another payment of $900 later.
Yeah. Okay, so to put this in perspective and why this is important, you got to think about this in terms of working. So let's say you want to retire one day and you still have your house payment and you're our age and you're thinking, why should I pay off my house? Who cares? Because for us, that would be another $100,000 that we would have to earn that we could put towards our retirement. They say you need $1 million to retire now. Okay. That is 1/10 right there, just getting your house paid off early. If you can do it in less than 10 years, you will save almost $100,000 if you can do it quicker.
We should show this one.
So
I think
next one.
I put 12, but I think it might be 11. It's the one that says mortgage information.
This one,
down
Dave?
right there,
It's
Dave.
13.
That's 13. Oh, okay. So,
There you go. It's up.
all right. So what I did here is I went to the Dave Ramsey mortgage.
Let
Let me see what it's called.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
There's a mortgage payoff calculator you can look up.
Early payoff.
Early payoff calculator. And the early payoff calculator you can use to find out if I pay extra on my mortgage, how much time will it cut off the loan? And I used the Dave Ramsey one. I have a link in the description. But it was the first one that showed up when I typed in early payoff calculator. So if you look at this graphic.
Okay, hold on. Why we used the amount $200 is because we had a viewer tell us that she spends $200 on her nails, toes, and hair every month. And she's so excited because she's stopping doing that and she's putting it on her house now.
And she already paid off a credit card or something, right?
She's already paid off a couple of
With
credit
the
cards.
savings.
Due to our advice. Thank you.
Thank
I'm
you.
so glad somebody's listening.
But $200 is not much for most people these days.
Most people can
And-
come up with another $200 a month.
And now I made this based on the sample mortgage that when I pulled up that amortization schedule, I did a $150,000 mortgage. And I did this based on that. You can see it says original loan amount $150,000. So I put in an extra payment amount of $200 starting today, which is the day that I said we got the loan. And you can look at on the right here, you can see that you actually are cutting, if you look on the far right, total time savings, 10 years, 7 months. That means by paying $200 extra, you cut more than a third off of the entire 30-year mortgage. Let that sink in for a minute. Like, you don't have to make a house payment for almost 10 and a half years because you pay just that little bit extra as you go. And you can see it says total interest savings. You're saving almost $60,000 in interest when you pay an extra $200 a month. And if you add that
Just for your hair and nails.
and if you add that $200 up, it's not going to add up. Well, no, that's the savings. But you're also reducing your that's the savings in interest. But the $200, you can't add up the $200 for all those months and say, well, that's $40,000 or whatever, because that's actually paying your principal down. So you're not only paying the principal down, but you are also saving almost $60,000 in interest by just paying the extra $200 on this sample mortgage. So there's the next one we have,
This one,
Dave, the next page up. This one, we did an example if you pay an extra payment every month. And for some people that'll be easier than others, but one reason why this is good is, so if you look at this making an extra payment, the payment's $828.31. And remember I told you, it's like you're making several extra payments. Every time you make one to principal, it's like taking several other payments completely away. Because when we looked at this loan, it didn't break down the interest and all that, but you can look at this and see that the total time now, you save more than 20 years off of a 30-year loan, which means you've cut the amount of time you have to pay on this house down to 1/3 of what it was. And look at how much interest you save. $106,771 and some change. Well, that's almost the same amount that you borrowed at the beginning. So by paying an extra payment on this every month, you can pay the house off in less than 10 years. And you save that huge amount of interest. That interest is your convenience fee for saying, you know what, I don't really have enough money because I wanted the newer phone or the better car or the boat. And those things are taking that money. And so for the privilege of having the boat and the phone and all that, you're not just paying for the boat and the phone, you're paying an extra $107,000 on your house.
Because you're not paying your house off.
Because you're not paying your house off. That $107,000, if you don't pay it and you save it as you go, you would not only have the $107,000, but if you invested it in something, you would have all the interest on that money
and
for yourself, and you wouldn't have to work a job to be able to keep that money. Mm-hmm. But if you borrow it and you let the interest go all the way to the end, you're having to work an extra job, or you're having to work your job for extra years just to pay the convenience of having this loan. Mm-hmm. And that's why we're so intense about wanting to get houses paid off.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing is, somebody mentioned in the comments earlier, and I know we're not going to get into questions right now, but she's right. If the company tells you you can afford so much of a loan, you really want to get the minimum amount of mortgage you need. Mm-hmm. And often that means you might not get as big of a house as you want. But the thing is, if you have an extravagant house and you're paying on it the minimum payment the rest of your life, this $100,000 and more is just going out the window. Mm-hmm. But if you get a house that's smaller that you can afford more and pay it off, you can then sell it and put that money on another house if you need a bigger house. Yeah. Although I would say if you get to that point, you might not want a bigger house because it feels good to be out of that mortgage.
Yeah.
So, because there was, I forgot what her name was, but the lady that paid off the other day, she said she paid hers off. And she told me, well, it's a kind of a small place, but we're totally out of debt. Totally perfect. It's better to be out of debt on a place that works for you, but it's not extravagant, than to have an extravagant place and constantly feel the pressure of being a slave to that.
Okay, so when we say pay an extra payment, we are saying put it all that extra payment on your principal only. So when you go back, if you missed the first part of the show, we're not going to repeat things we've already said, but go back and look at the first part of the show. We show where to put that on the line on there. You put all of that extra payment only on the principal.
Additional principal.
Okay?
And,
all right.
Just to clarify, I would say, given the choice between a 30-year loan and a 15-year loan, I know a lot of people like the 15-year loans, but if you get the 30-year loan, the interest is spread out a lot further behind, and if you pay it off ahead of time, you actually pay it off faster. As long as you discipline yourself to pay a 30-year loan in 15 years. Because a 15-year loan, they have to spread the interest further forward because there's less time for them to get it from you. So the other thing about a 30-year loan that we like is on the 30-year loan, if there's an emergency of some sort and we can't make our payment, it's a little bit less of a payment. So I would recommend that in that case.
Okay, so how to pay off mortgage early. What are some things that you can do? Okay, first of all, you can invest in our Dining on a Dime cookbook. Okay, I know this is a shameless plug, but let me tell you, this week alone, I've had
This will make you be able to pay $200 extra on your
I have had 10 people email me and say, I save $50 a week on my grocery bill using your cookbook. I saved $200 this month using your cookbook. I saved $400 this month using your cookbook. Guys, stop eating out and start cooking at home. It doesn't take long. I literally took 3 minutes before the show was starting this afternoon, got the food in the oven for us for after the show, and our dinner is going to be ready in 3 minutes using the principles in this book, okay? It doesn't take a long time to cook at home. Stop making it so complicated. 2, stop buying brand new cars you can't afford. No one should buy a brand new car, period, if you have any other debt.
Well, and think about this. Let's say your house is paid off and you have a car payment and it's like on a $40,000 car. That's fine. You can afford it. You can make that car payment, but you're kind of taking away from yourself in the future. Because if you can get a car for a lot less money and not have that payment, all that money is yours to keep forever into the future. So in other words, we will spend like $3,000 to $5,000 on a good car because we'll shop around a little bit and find a grandma car that's got like less than 100,000 miles, probably less than 75,000 miles, and we get a really good one. But if you have the $40,000 car loan or car, you're actually paying more on the loan than that because of the interest. Not as much as the house interest because it only goes out for however many years it goes out. But nevertheless, if you buy the regular car, you have all that money that you can use for your retirement or for whatever you want in the future. And so you can have the convenience right now of saying, I have a nice car, but our cars are nice. I mean, they're nice, but they're not luxurious. I mean, they run well and everything works and it runs well and it's comfortable. But we spend my Camry, it was $3,000. We put 100 and something thousand miles on it, and it's still going without hardly any problems. But if I had
we got paid $2,500 for hail damage. So far the car has cost us $500 to use it for 3 years.
Well, right, but if I had the loan on a car, we would have spent $15,000 so far in just in the payments. Actually, probably more.
Yeah.
So.
All right, so start putting your questions in, and we'll see if we can get to as many as we can. Allison said she saved $300 a month just using our cookbook. That is great. That is great. The other thing is, so stop eating out, stop buying expensive cars, stop doing your hair, nails, and toes. I mean, $200 right there, guys, that's crazy. Learn to do it yourself. And if your hair is something that's really important, go in once every 3 months and get a really good haircut and just get a light trim in between for, just do it yourself or go somewhere else in between. Stop buying houses you can't afford. Okay, so here's the thing. When we bought this house, they told us that we qualified for a $300,000
Was it only
loan.
3?
Yeah. For a $300,000 loan.
But our loan was 140.
And we were like, no, we're not going to spend that much money on a house. We want to get it paid off. So when you go to buy your house, buy significantly less than what the bank will let you borrow. And
Don't
get
fall for
just
the
what
marketing.
you need for your needs, okay? And everybody's needs are going to vary. But really, if you guys are two working family, if you're two parents are working, you've got kids in daycare, nobody is home all day long, why are you buying a $500,000-$600,000 house for you to just come home and sleep? You know, it's kind of ridiculous. So get the lowest you can. We have worked our way up. Our first house was $27,000, and so we've worked our way up in buying houses also. Okay, so let's get some questions, and I think we kind of hit the basics, but watch, if you want to know how to save money, please, we have over 1,000 videos, over 1,500 articles at livingonadime.com, over 1,200 recipes and tips in Dining on a Dime cookbook, thousands and tens of thousands of dollars and hundreds of thousands of dollars can be saved just using the tips on our website, livingonadime.com, so go check it out.
Yeah.
Okay. Questions?
Okay, well, one thing, somebody earlier asked how much money did we put down on this house? Now, we were paying off our house in Kansas before we moved here, and we put $60,000 down. So the $140,000 was the extra we had to borrow because at the time this house cost $200,000.
Yeah.
And in Kansas, our house cost a lot less. But also, our income dropped a lot because I went from the 2 jobs to the 1. And we were trying to figure out what to do at that point. So that's why we paid less off in the first few years at this house.
Yeah. But here's the thing, guys.
But putting that amount of money down allowed us to have a much lower payment.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of our neighbors that are probably have $2,500 to $3,000 a month payment.
at
Ours
least.
was $900 when we started. It went up because they miscalculated. The mortgage company miscalculated the taxes.
Yeah. So here's the thing, guys. I don't care how much you put down. Put down $5. Put down $10. You can put down something every month. And even when we didn't have the money,
You mean save or put extra on the house? Okay, gotcha.
even when we didn't have the money, we always put something extra on the principal payment. Always. Once you get in the habit of doing it, then you start finding more money. You get your tax refund. Everybody's getting their tax refunds. Get that put on your mortgage. Then get your taxes fixed at your employer so they're not taking out so much money, and you're giving the government a free loan when you could be saving interest on your mortgage by taking that money that they're holding. So don't use that as a savings account. Okay, so let's
Becky said I bought a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath house, $49,000 with 20% down. House payment is $320 a month.
Good job.
And that sounds like a really low amount to some people, but we did that. We've moved
Yeah.
way out into the country in Idaho to get a really cheap
Yeah.
mortgage like that.
Okay, next question.
So, oops. I'm a little bit lost where we are. Okay.
And don't pay a
there it
company.
is.
Don't pay a company to add extra payments on your house. That's ridiculous. There's no reason to pay anyone. And when you buy your house, make sure that there's not an early payoff penalty, because sometimes there will be. But if you've already made that mistake and got a loan with an early payoff penalty, it's probably worth it to take the penalty and get your house paid off.
Because the interest is huge.
Yeah.
And the buyout is a lot less.
Yeah.
Suzanne says, have you covered mortgage impairment insurance? Yes. So if you, again, I will just reiterate, if you put less than $20,000 on your house, there's an extra insurance called PMI, which is a mortgage insurance. And if you get to the point where you have 20% of it paid off and you have PMI on your loan, you need to call your mortgage company and say, I'm up to 20% of my value now, and take that off.
Yeah, they have to.
And you'll save, it's like $100 or $200 a month just from that.
And then take that $100 or $200 and put it on your principal and get your principal.
Exactly.
more.
And because if you had to pay that at the beginning of your loan, the mortgage company will not take it off unless you ask them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have to know that. It's just a way that they can make money.
Yeah.
Diana, I've taken your advice and started putting $600 a month in savings.
Woo,
Awesome.
good job. Good job.
Let's see. We don't have a coupon for Dining on a Dime at the moment.
No, we're gonna probably have a sale, but I'm not sure when. So
So,
Okay, let's go over to the new stuff here and see
Oh, okay.
what we got here. Any questions? What about refinancing? My mother didn't know, and I got a balloon mortgage. Oh,
I would refinance out of
Yeah.
a balloon mortgage to a fixed rate mortgage
unless
right now.
you're expecting the money to be able to pay it off, get
Well,
that refinance.
So that's another
Yeah.
thing. If you don't yet have a mortgage, or if you're in a you don't want a balloon mortgage, and you don't want a variable rate mortgage.
Yeah.
And a balloon mortgage is one where you have really low payments for a while, and all of a sudden you have to pay a tremendous amount all at once, like
Yeah.
$60,000. You don't want that. Those are really risky and difficult.
Yeah.
A variable rate mortgage is where the interest rate changes depending on what's happening with the stock market. But right now the rates are about the lowest they've ever been. So they can only get higher. So if you're on a variable rate, you should switch that to fixed rate right now.
Yeah.
To save yourself a ton of money in the future.
And also, what about refinancing? So, like, our mortgage right now is 4.75, and it did go down to 3 something a couple of years ago. But here's the thing: for the $3,000 that it would have cost us to refinance, we just took that money and just put it on the principal, and it actually saved us more than refinancing the house. If you don't think you're going to be able to pay it off, then I would go ahead and refinance.
Lynn, how do you find out the property tax for different places? We looked on Zillow.
Yeah, so when I look at houses in all the different places, I just look at the property tax because they list on the real estate listing, they list how much the property tax is. So like here in Colorado, for a $350,000 house, it's about $1,500 for normal taxing districts. In Wisconsin, it's between $5,000 and $9,000 depending on where we were looking at for a $350,000 house. In Kansas, it was about $5,000 for a $350,000 house. So it does make a difference if you're planning on paying off your house.
Yeah, well, the other thing is that if you're looking at buying a house, the property taxes will be higher in a city. There are taxing districts, like there's the school and there's the county and there's the city and the state. And if you're in the city, you pay more. Mm-hmm. There are benefits for being in the city, but you're paying extra for those if that's what you want.
Yeah, and you can get special tax breaks sometimes. So like if you're disabled or low income, you can get like a homestead type break where they will reduce your taxes if you're over 65 or something like that. Colorado has a special thing that if you're an agricultural property, then you can get your taxes reduced. And we had thought about looking for property, and since I'm a big gardener, growing agricultural we should grow hemp. There you go. It just came into my head. I'm only kidding. Growing something so that I could use it like in my soaps or something like that, so that we would be an ag small business property. You get discounts also.
Did we do a video already about how to get the car for
Yes, we have a video on how to buy a car. Go and search YouTube. How to buy a car, I think is what it's called.
There's a place you can go to our channel, and there's a search that only searches our channel.
Yeah.
So you could just type in car, and it would probably come up.
Yeah. Why pick it? Some places seem like they have high property tax, but they also have state income tax. Yes, that's
True.
something to consider.
But one thing about that we were thinking about is if, let's say you're going to be in the house the rest of your life, or you think you might be. In that case, it might be better if the sales tax is high and there's no property tax or very little property tax, because you have to pay the property tax no matter what. And the sales tax, you can choose what you're going to buy, and then how much tax you pay is depending on what you buy. Mm-hmm. So like if you're older and you find that your money is more scarce than you thought it would be, if the property taxes are lower, you have less that you absolutely have to pay.
Yeah.
So we kind of looked at that a little. Some states are a lot less in all those taxes.
Yeah. Let's see. In an expensive city, is it worth buying a house you will never pay off to sell it later using the proceeds to buy a cheaper house with no mortgage outside of the city? Yeah. I mean, if you're in an area like we're in Colorado and the housing prices are going up, that would be a good investment. Our house has doubled since we bought it. So for us, that was a great investment, but you have to be careful because we had 2 houses where we lost money. We lost $12,000 on our first house, and we lost $20,000 on our last house because the market fell and we had to move for jobs and then to help out our niece. So you kind of have to use your discretion, but
In that case, it's a little different than just buying a house to live in. But basically, in that case, you would want to be in a place where the market is very robust most of the time. And if it goes down, it comes back. And that's the thing about Colorado. It crashed really bad in 2008, and then it came back stronger than it was before.
Yeah.
And so if you can ride those waves, that's great. But
Yep.
if you're in a place where it doesn't change very much, you might lose in the long term.
okay, Patty, do people ever cancel their homeowner's insurance or greatly reduce it if the mortgage is
I
paid off?
wouldn't.
Don't do that. No, if your house burns down,
You lose everything.
you lose everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's not a good thing to do
I would,
at all.
homeowners insurance is one that I wouldn't, but you can
No.
shop around and get a better rate
Yeah,
from some other company.
What about a home equity line of credit? Why?
No, absolutely not.
No.
No, the thing about home equity line
no.
of credits, home equity lines of credit is they're it's kind of variable what rate they can charge you. Like you don't get a guaranteed rate. It's worse than a variable rate mortgage, because there are people that recommend using them, but there are they can call. There's certain things about them. One is they can call the loan at any time for any reason. So suddenly they can say, "Oh, we want your whole $60,000 today." Well, it's not today. It's like 30 days or something. But the other thing is the rate is variable, so you never can be totally sure how much you're going to have to pay. But on a fixed rate mortgage, then that interest rate stays the same, even if all the other interest rates in the country are really high. So yeah, don't get a
Yeah.
HELOC. That'd be just as bad as a variable loan, or
Yeah.
probably worse.
Diana, so refinance to a fixed rate? Yes, I would refinance to a fixed rate and put all that money that's in the house.
For refinance, if she has equity in the house, which means if the house is more valuable than what she owes, a lot of times you don't have to have cash to put down, but they will take the fees out of they'll put the fees in the loan if that's the case, in which case we figured out that it takes a couple of years. Well, no, I think it was going to take us 9 months to recover the amount of the refinance cost in the savings from the refinance. And we did refinance one house for that reason, and we did save a lot because we did that.
Yeah.
But if you have a balloon payment or a variable loan, I would go get a refi right away because you'd save a ton of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have state income tax? Yes, we do in Colorado. We have income and property tax. Let's see.
Oh, somebody asked, how do you know if you have PMI? If you look on your mortgage statement where we showed, where is it? Where we showed, and it shows principal and interest and escrow and all that, one of the line items should say PMI. If you see PMI on your statement, you need to call. Well, if you see PMI on your statement and you have 20% equity, meaning you owe.
So if your housing has gone up, so like our house price or our prices in Colorado, our house has doubled. So that automatically made it so that our PMI could be taken off. We didn't have any when we started.
If
but
the amount you owe is 80% of the total
Value of
value
your
or
house.
less,
Yeah.
then you need to call them and say, take that off,
Yeah.
because that'll save you a ton of money. And if you turn that, don't go take that money and go buy a fancier TV.
No.
Turn that money towards your principal payment and get that house paid off, then you can buy a lot more TVs when you're done.
Yeah. Darlene, we may not have sales tax here in Oregon, but we have property taxes are very high. And guys, you can sit and figure those things. So like for us,
I would rather have a high sales tax than property tax.
yeah, because it costs more. You don't have to spend to pay that you don't have to spend to pay the sales tax. So while it sounds like it's a good idea to not have any sales tax is actually optional, because
You can
a
say, I'm
lot
not
of
going to buy
things-
as much stuff this month.
Yeah.
And then you pay less tax. But
Exactly.
on your house, the tax is the same no matter what. So if the if the economy crashes and your income goes down, you still have to pay the same amount of tax on the property.
All right,
tax.
Linus, I rent at this point, but for renting or buying, how do I find cheaper states to move to? How do I find housing information on different states? So just study it. So what I have done is I have gone through different cities, different states. We have been looking for a house for 2 years.
You're using Zillow mostly?
And I just go through any of the realtor.com. You can do Zillow. You can use redfin.com, any of the realtor sites. And I just compare the taxes and the insurance along different places. In Kansas, the insurance is higher than in Colorado because there's more hail and that kind of thing. In New Jersey, your homeowner's insurance may be less because you don't have as many catastrophic things like tornadoes and that kind of thing. So just start doing your research and just start looking at different houses. That's how I learned where's cheaper and where's not, is just looking at the information and seeing where's
And there are a
cheaper
lot
things.
of, if you live in New York or Los Angeles or San Francisco, there are a lot of, almost everywhere in the country is cheaper. Some places that are the super cheapest places are very rural, and some people may not want that, like Alaska and Wyoming. But those are the absolutely lowest taxes. But there are some in the middle. If you find that it's killing you in the state where you are, there are some states that are less, but still have some of the stuff you might want.
Okay, Marie, what percentage of income should you spend on a house mortgage in order to pay off faster? I wouldn't go by a percentage. First of all, you shouldn't spend more than 30% of your income on any housing, but just get as less as you can. So
if you can do a lot less than 30%, that's better.
Yeah, because here's the thing. Someone who earns $500,000 a year, well, let's say someone who earns $100,000 a year. Okay, so they should spend $30,000 on housing a year. But what if they could spend $15,000? What if they could get a house so they only spend $1,000 a month on house payments?
You pay it off faster, and then you have no housing costs.
Even though you can, doesn't mean you should. Okay, and so just get the very least that you can. Okay?
And if your income goes up, don't upgrade your house unless you have a pressing need. Like if you suddenly have 8 more kids, that's a pressing need.
Well, and
but don't upgrade your house just because your money goes up.
And like for us, our business is really hampering our family life. Having our business in the middle of our kitchen, in the middle of our living area, that's already been answered. So we would really like to get a better house. As a matter of fact, I even went and looked at one today. But we don't necessarily want to do more of a payment. Our house should be paid off in 6 months or less. So do we really want to do that? Not necessarily. Maybe. We're not sure.
And then that's where we have to decide, is the difference in the cost going to improve things enough to make it worth it? And a tough call. But one of the things that we would consider too is, if we sell that house, how much will we then end up with?
Yeah.
Because like here, we paid $200,000 for the house. It's double in value. So if we walk away from it now, we've made twice as much money. Of course, if the market goes down,
and we haven't,
then it goes back closer to where it was.
Yeah. All right, guys, that looks like we got all the questions. Please visit us at livingonadime.com and check out our Dining on a Dime cookbook if you want to eat better and spend less and save money on your grocery bill so you can pay off your house. I think that should be a goal of every single homeowner. Get your house paid off. There's no reason to have a house payment in retirement. Well, there are a few reasons, but for most people,
and if you're not in retirement, you'll just have a lot more money to put towards retirement and other things that you want to do. So do that. Yeah. It seems like there was something else I was going to ask about that. Sorry, go ahead. I was just trying to think. If you missed anything we said, this will be recorded. YouTube and Facebook record it so you can play it back, and I would go back and watch to see those parts, because there's a whole lot of good information, and we use a lot of graphics and things that are helpful.
Yep.
So.
Yep. All right, guys, please visit us at livingonadime.com. Check out our Dining on a Dime cookbook. Please like, subscribe, and share. We really appreciate it, and we will see you guys on Monday. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to make soap tomorrow at 11 a.m. Mountain. Bye.
Awesome.
Oh, wait. Or am I going to the... Oh, I may not be making it. I think I might be doing the field trip. Never mind. I'm not doing soap tomorrow. Okay. See you guys later. Bye. Bye.
Is this Phil now, Mr. Producer?
Phil.
Hey, Phil, are you out there?
Phil.
I couldn't figure out. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Julia, totally. Yeah, you can kick it. That's fine. Julia is totally cool. She's right here.
She bought her